We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Mike. Mike is using a Marantz SR6005 for a surround sound and a separate stereo preamp for two-channel music. He's only using one pair of front speakers, though, so they are pulling double duty. He's never used subwoofers before, but now he's thinking he'd like to add dual subwoofers. Way to go, jumping in the deep end. And he'd want to use them for both his surround sound and his two-channel listening. The Marantz has only basic Odyssey multi-Q, so he prefer to use outboard EQ for the subwoofers, almost certainly a mini DSP, he says. Mike didn't specify in his email whether he's using any external amplification, but he basically wants to know how he can connect both of his surround sound systems, and both his surround sound system and his separate two-channel preamp, so that both setups are using the mini DSP and the dual subwoofers and the front speakers. In particular, if he sets his front speakers to large in the Marantz and his center, and it surrounds to small, all the bass LFE and the bass from the center and the surrounds get sent to his front speaker pre-outs. What?
So that second question.
The
simple, straightforward answer is yes.
Right.
If you say so, this goes for any surround sound receiver. If you say you do not have a subwoofer, it will automatically set your front speakers to large.
Right.
At which point, all of the bass, whether it's from the dedicated LFE channel or from the speakers that you've set to small, all of the bass then gets sent to those front speakers.
Well, whatever the speakers are that are large. Yeah, whatever set is large.
True.
So if you set their surround backs as large,
so
large.
Strictly answering that's the case. But there's basically two scenarios here, right? One is that he has an external stereo amplifier to power his front left and right speakers.
Yes.
And he is using some sort of speaker selector switch to switch between the pre-outs of his Marantz surround sound receiver and the pre-outs of his stereo two-channel preamp.
Right.
That would be fine. Now, if that's the case, you would simply feed the output of that speaker selector switch to your mini DSP first. The mini DSP can then send the signal that goes to your front, left, right speakers, because it has 4 outputs. It has 2 inputs and 4 outputs. So you would send the left and right inputs of the mini DSP. That would be being fed by whatever is already feeding your amplifier. And then 2 of the mini DSP's outputs would go to the amplifier that you're using right now, and the other 2 would go to your dual subwoofers. So it's the exact, if you have a stereo external amplifier right now, it's the exact same setup you have. You're just putting the mini DSP in between the selector switch and the amplifier.
I am unsure that we're answering this question correctly. He is using surround sound. I mean, he says
he's using a surround sound system and a separate stereo preamp, but somehow both of them are feeding the same pair of front speakers.
Fine. And if that's the case, then is he using the mini DSP just for the sub, or does he want to use it for all of his speakers?
No, he wants the mini DSP just for the subs.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like I say, if you're using an external stereo amp right now, the mini DSP is just going to get inserted in the signal chain in between whatever it is you're using to choose between either the pre-outs of your surround sound AV receiver or the pre-outs of your stereo preamp. You're using something to switch between those two. So
why can't he just set the front speakers to small and then put the DSP between the mini DSP between the subwoofer output of both the...
Well, this is the other scenario. The other scenario is you're using the stereo two-channel preamp to feed one of the inputs of your Marantz SR6005. That might be the case. Maybe he's just going, I have this stereo preamp, it feeds one of the stereo analog inputs of the SR6005. If that's the case, you can do all the bass management inside the Marantz.
Right.
You would set all of the speakers to small. You would set the subwoofer to on, or yes.
Yes, right.
And now the subwoofer output would feed the mini DSP, and the mini DSP would feed your subwoofers.
Right.
That's all there is to that one. So that's the simpler one. The simpler one is that your Marantz is handling all of the amplification right now, and you just happen to be using this separate stereo preamp to feed one of the pairs of inputs on the Marantz.
As long as you're not using like a pure direct mode when they're going through from your stereo preamp through your Marantz.
You'd have to use the stereo listening mode.
Yeah, something that allows bass management. That would be the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's never used subwoofers before, so he's not used to the all speakers set to small, subwoofer set to on. He hasn't used that setting before. But if all of the amplification is happening inside your Marantz, that's going to be the setup. All your speakers set to small, subwoofer set to yes or on or whatever it is.
I'm guessing that's not how he has this thing set up, to be honest.
Maybe not. Yeah, that's why I'm saying if you do have a stereo external amplifier, then somehow you are choosing which set of pre-outs are feeding that external amplifier. So some way you're doing that.
Yeah, you got to.
So that same output from that selector switch is now going to feed the mini DSP, and then the mini DSP is going to feed both your external 2-channel amplifier and your dual subwoofers. It has the 4 outputs.
And in that case, you would keep the mains to large so that you could strip the bass out of it.
That's right.
And then let the mini DSP would then basically strip all the bass from that, send it to your subwoofers, and then that's essentially setting your front speakers to small. In essence,
well, it's bass managing them inside the mini DSP
rather than doing it inside the
Marantz. So yeah, either way, there is a way to do this.
Yeah. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.